Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with some reactions to EA Play 2021. Now I was originally going to live stream this event, but I thought to myself, I'm setting myself up to be incredibly negative here. When they say no BioWare, so that means no Dragon Age, no Mass Effect, no Legendary Edition multiplayer, then they say no Star Wars games, so that means like no Jedi Fallen Order 2 or any other surprises. I thought, well, what am I really going to care about outside of the leaked Dead Space game? And so I pulled out and instead I chose to hang curtains in the office. It's cute in here now. So in the meantime, I had the stream up. I was glancing back and forth, not too crazy about things, but as it started to conclude, there were some things I found myself going, all right, I think I got today's video sorted. We're going to talk about this. So we've got two games that I really want to dive into in this video. One of them in particular is the GOAT of survival horror, Dead Space, a game series that I love so dearly. I'm currently working on a project that I've spent months on, by the way, The Life and Death of Dead Space. It should be coming out within the next week. Please keep an eye out for it. I'll be promoting the hell out of it because I've spent a lot of time and money on it, so I hope you all do end up checking it out because it is a love letter to the original trilogy that came out for this series, and it's thanks to the news of the remake coming around that I decided to hop into all three of those games. So we'll be talking about the Dead Space remake in this video, but also Battlefield Portal. Gonna try something a little bit different, new type of format. So with that, if you're new here and you're into video game discussions, welcome. It's all we do here. So consider subscribing and joining up on what we're doing. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. I want to start off with Battlefield Portal, actually, because that'll probably be the quicker part of all of this. I was caught off guard by this entirely. I don't know about all of you out there, but I was watching it going, wait, I recognize that map from Bad Company 2. Wait, those are the soldiers from Battlefield 3. Hold up. So, a little bit of a history lesson here, but Battlefield 3 is my personal favorite of the series, right next to Bad Company 2. I think I just have a lot of nostalgia for Bad Company 2 because it's what peeled me away from Call of Duty. I was a big COD kid growing up, like I think many of us were. It was all I played. It was the only game I enjoyed. And as that fatigue started to set in and I started to dive more into single-player games, Bad Company 2 was sort of the weaning. It was the nicotine patch of video games for me where I was like, all right, I'm slowly getting off that COD kick and I'm moving over to a new shooter and I'm playing it sporadically. And Bad Company 2 with its vehicles, its destruction, I love the real-time sniping physics. It was such a crazy concept to me. So to see some tips of the cap in Battlefield Portal where we're seeing maps that I've played time in, time out for hundreds of hours being reimagined in Battlefield 2042, I cannot say how excited I am for this game. I was already excited for Battlefield 2042 on its own, but knowing Portal is going to be there at launch, I think it lessens the blow a little bit of the trade-off saying, hey, we're not doing single player, which I always want a traditional campaign, but it's easier to swallow when you're doing something different like this, where they're reimagining old stuff, they're bringing it back for fans, and they're allowing for customization within game modes. I mean, Battlefield's all about joining those random servers, and now you can see all the different ideas they were coming up with, like World War II soldiers versus Battlefield 3 soldiers. We saw defibrillator battles in the trailer. I mean, it was out there. They're really embracing the memes and what the community's built with Battlefield, and I appreciate that. It looks a lot like DICE is in touch with this game, and I feel like they're shaping up for a strong release here, which for me personally as well is good news for the series I care more about, Star Wars Battlefront. You know, Battlefront 1, really just a hollow multiplayer game. 2 ended up great, but it did not start well, and it took a long while for it to really get rolling. Now Battlefront 2 is excellent, but I'm hoping with Battlefront 3, they get it right. And with the way they're listening to the community, totally off topic, but give me that Galactic Conquest, baby. Oh my gosh. Would love to see that. But anyway, to save you all from the rambling, Battlefield 2042 for me is shaping up to look pretty excellent. It seems to be a good multiplayer fall between Halo Infinite looking good and also Battlefield 2042 looking great. More to the point of this video, though, the main inspiration for it was, of course, the GOAT of survival horror, at least in my opinion. I know a lot of you out there are Resident Evil fans. I respect that. Dead Space. I love me some Dead Space, and that love has been reinvigorated because I just went through the whole trilogy, Dead Space 3 withstanding, but 1 and 2 are so superb, and now we have heard murmurs of a remake for many weeks. Here we are getting the confirmation, getting some official details on it, and a little bit more of scoops from the original source itself, Jeff grub. So we're going to get into all of that. Let's start off with the trailer itself, what we saw for Dead Space Remake, which was, I mean, it was an EA trailer in a way, right? At least it wasn't a prototype, but I was hoping for a little bit more to see if they were going to have Isaac voiced, which I have some concerns about when we start to look at some press releases. But I wanted to know what gameplay elements are they going to take from Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3 and bring back into the original, kind of like what Destroy All Humans remake did, where they took certain mechanics from Destroy All Humans 2 and brought them back into the first game for the remake to help modernize it and not just wait for that next entry. But anyway, the trailer overall was solid. You heard Isaac's iconic breathing, that Darth Vader like, I love that stuff because it actually manages to build the atmosphere. One thing that was really neat to see is that it is confirmed to be next-gen only. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Excellent news. Cannot emphasize that enough because obviously it'll look beautiful, but Dead Space 1 was a technical achievement for its time with some of its procedural elements, and when you meld that with things like how great it looked and its level design and its lack of load screens because they were all invisible, everything was happening in-game, it was such a achievement. It truly was. So I'm hoping that EA Motive can do that. That's where some of my concern genuinely starts to set in. And I mean it with no disrespect because they do have a blueprint to follow, and they are following one indeed. We actually have some sort of confirmation on that. EA Motive made the campaign for Battlefront 2, which, no, just not great. Very lackluster, I would say. Pulled its punches, way too short, and quite honestly not well written. And then you move into their next game, their full game, Star Wars Squadrons, on a gameplay front. Good job. Very well done. On a story front, it kind of mirrors the same issues that we saw with Battlefront 2. Even the same plot approach. Now with the remake, you're hoping that they're just going to follow what was established by Visceral many years ago. But then you get into the press release, and there's one word in there, and you'll know it when you see it, I think, that has me a little concerned. So let's read. EA today announced during EA Play Live 2021, the sci-fi classic survival horror game Dead Space will be returning as a remake completely rebuilt from the ground up. Dead Space is being developed exclusively for next-generation consoles and PC, raising the level of horror and immersion to unprecedented heights for the franchise through stunning visuals, audio, and controls powered by the Frostbite game engine. Fans will experience an improved story, characters, gameplay mechanics, and more as they fight to survive a living nightmare aboard the desolate mining starship, the USG Ishimura, all while uncovering the dreadful mystery of what happened to the slaughtered crew and ship. Then they have the official teaser linked. Two things. Frostbite, very much hit or miss for me. When I hear it, I think BioWare, and I think of how much their games struggle, but in fairness, BioWare makes RPGs. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself. This game will look incredible, but Frostbite, to me, sound the alarms. To me, though, the more worrying precedent being set is that they use the terminology improved story. And I feel like the only way you could improve the story is by making Isaac voiced in the original game. I don't know if everyone agrees. That's totally fine if you don't. I think Dead Space 2 is the best in the series. And part of it is because Isaac was voiced and they took his character a huge step forward. But what really made me buy in was Dead Space 1 is watching this everyday engineer, sort of voiceless. Really, you know nothing about him beyond his girlfriend. And he just steps into this ship and becomes a accidental hero. But his personality was interestingly built by his actions, but also his yell in combat. Because they sort of oppose each other. One's this brutal war cry as he lets out stomps on necromorphs, and then the other is him doing death-defying dives to save the day. Now, while I do have some worries about that because I think there's a purity to the original vision, there is the possibility they would have had him voiced if they had a bigger budget, which when Dead Space 2 had a budget, was one of the biggest we had seen for a game at the time. They were able to make Isaac voiced, and I think it did elevate his character. But then you get something like Dead Space 3 where I feel like overall the writing really hurt his character and him being voiced didn't help. So I could see myself being the odd man out on this, but for me, I would rather them take just the original vision, don't take creative liberties, because this leads into writing. I think that's what EA Motive's biggest issue was with both games they've worked on a story front, was writing. And if they have to write Isaac and have to make him speak for himself and make his actions more reasonable, just don't jeopardize what the original product was, right? Just make it technically better, bring in mechanics from the sequels, and actually, that seems to be what they're doing. So Jeff Grubb was the one who broke that Dead Space remake was indeed a thing back in June, and he wrote in a follow-up once the game was announced, short teaser, I've heard the game looks incredible, we will probably hear more about it soon, it's a reboot/remake, it'll have elements from multiple entries in the series. Reboot. So there is a chance that stuff in the story changes. And this wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. There's elements like the Church of Unitology, which sits in the background, but yet seemed more important up until the third game where suddenly Danik's chasing you down and they have an army pretty much, and they're hunting you on Tal Volantis. There's a lot there that I think could be improved. They're following a blueprint, though. This comes from the original report by Jeff Grubb, where he says that for its Dead Space game, Motive is taking notes from Capcom's recent Resident Evil 2 remake, where they said that they'll use the original game as a strong foundation. It should have modern visuals, but it'll likely bring in new gameplay mechanics inspired by other entries in the franchise. Speaking of Capcom, it is likely a major reason that the new Dead Space is happening. While EA has let its horror franchise wither, the Resident Evil series is larger than ever, and Capcom has provided an easy blueprint to follow for the company. So I just hope that they follow it to a T, but I don't know. I'm not fully trusting EA Motive based off their portfolio. So my suggestion would be, hey, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you've already got all 3 Dead Space games, you can play them. As someone who just played them this past month, get in there, play them. They're short games, like 10 hours tops each, not long at all. And they're excellent. They still hold up. Get them on PC Game Pass as well. You can get them on EA Play if you don't want to sign up for Game Pass. I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach these games. They're very old, so they're not expensive. I really highly recommend them, because if you do end up liking them, then it's no harm on the remake, because you have something you found that you enjoyed. And if the remake's bad, then you at least have the originals, which you experienced and saw the original vision for them. And I think best case scenario, it enhances your experience of the remake of the first game. So I just suggest going back to them. I would say go ahead, do that, because who knows how long we're going to be waiting. But those are just some of my thoughts on Dead Space Remake, Battlefield Portal. Wanted to share them with you all today. Let me know what you're thinking about both these games in the comments down below. Very, very excited to see your thoughts, especially on Dead Space. So fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who are joining up, supporting what we're doing here. And I'll talk with you very soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.